What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have the PPI data report coming out that could cause a lot of volatility and what the news is saying about Tesla thus far. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. As far as Tesla's going, as you could tell for the medium term, Tesla is on an uptrend right now, right? We're making higher lows and higher highs over and over again. But as of recent, one thing that's very interesting is that Tesla came very close to about 348 around mid August, got a rejection. Then it pushed up to about 355, got a rejection. Then we pushed up to about 358, came back down. So as we get close to the 350s, Tesla does tend to struggle at that resistance. We had an inside day today. We just kind of shuffled. We saw some consolidation. However, the market started off with the dip after we got our employment numbers, only to bounce. SPY was up 0.23%. The QQQ was up 0.28%. But Tesla was only up 0.16%, which means it's showing a little bit of weakness. It's not as strong as what we saw before. Now, I am concerned about one thing about Tesla. On the daily time frame, we still have this big gap, and we had two red candlestick closes. Since we gapped up, ever since we got that news about Elon Musk's pay package, the proposal that came out from shareholders. Now we have this gap to fill all the way down here at 338. We're going to see if we could come down to fill that gap or not. But I just want to mention that with the data coming out for tomorrow, it's possible Tesla tries to bounce first, consolidates a bit, and then it could be coming down later. So I want to give you guys a warning about that. Now, what's happening with the news involving Tesla? We'll talk about that first, and I'll break down more details about the charts. Wedbush is saying that Tesla will likely outperform the market, which is some good news. And then we do have a tendency of holding up nicely. So right now the price-price ratio is flat, which essentially tells us that we're still holding support. And then when it comes to other pieces of news, keep in mind that historically, on Wednesdays, Tesla tends to be green about 48% of the time only, which is not that much. And there's not really a whole lot else that's going on, at least so far, for the time being. Now, there was news that came out that Tesla's losing its market share in the US. Keep in mind that the market share for Tesla has been going down in the US. It's the lowest level in the last 8 years. I'm still seeing lots of headlines about this. The overall market for EVs has been increasing in the US, but Tesla's market share has been going down as a result of, Elon Musk's political ventures, higher interest rates, and many factors like that. And it's not just about the market share. Like I went over the numbers in my last couple of videos. There were times in 2022 we were doing about 130,000 sales per quarter. 2023 the numbers went up to about 160,000, sometimes 175,000. 2024 140,000, 160,000, and 160,000 towards the end of the year. And then in 2025 Q1 we did 128,000. Q2 is around 140,000. So there's a slight decrease in their American sales. Now, the sales could change, okay? The sales could change by this quarter because of the very awesome incentive that these investors and people have to buy Teslas before the tax credit comes to an end. So hopefully that helps Tesla for Q3. So there's hope that the sales do better. And there was some good news that helped Tesla push a little bit in the morning. Tesla has been seeking permits to offer ride hailing services in more areas in Silicon Valley. Tesla has asked the San Francisco, San Jose, and Oakland airports about acquiring permits to operate a ride hailing service at each location. According to Politico, they've been working very hard on that. And I think this is great news because as they're expanding the Robotaxi, it's going to help them build a lot more revenue, especially in busy areas where we have, a lot of people, lots of like tourists come, lots of people come from the airports. They need like a taxi or an Uber or even a Tesla Robotaxi very, very soon. So it's great news. Keep in mind, there's a lot of regulation Tesla has to deal with in California. There has to be a driver that has to sit behind the wheel. Although they don't have to touch the wheel every single time, they have to keep their hands close to it. And as time goes on, yes, eventually we're going to have robotaxis in California that are fully operational, fully autonomous. But we're making a lot of progress, and this is some great news for Tesla. Finally, there's one more thing to talk about. Tesla has also been updating its utility scale Megapack batteries. It's been trying to do this to offset the decline in sales. The new battery pack known as the Megapack 3, it's very, very efficient, And they're introducing a new mega block system by grouping 4 Megapack 3 units together that can store 20 megawatt hours, enough to run around 4,000 homes for 4 hours. It's also, once again, going to be able to work almost anywhere in the world where they have the necessary infrastructure. And then they want to, once again, source them in the US, Southeast Asia, and then China. Finally, what else is very good about this is that they're very efficient in terms of their energy capabilities. And this could be very, very bullish for Tesla, at least longer term. So that is some good news. Tesla was still flat nonetheless, but we're going to see if we could get some kind of balance with PPI. The market does look like it wants to go a little bit higher. But if we can't break this high at 355, if we come short, there's still going to be a risk of us eventually turning back down to fill this gap by either the end of this week or next week. So I do have a warning for Tesla because of that. So what's going to likely happen? Let's go over the news and data. Tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have PPI month over month coming out, and all the PPI data. Now, PPI month over month, we're expecting 0.3 to 0.4% for all items. That's a slight decrease compared to before, which is not too bad. For core PPI month over month, we're expecting 0.3 to 0.4%, a slight decrease compared to before. For core PPI year over year, for basically the year over year basis, we're expecting 3.5 to 3.6%. That is a slight decrease compared to before. And then for PPI year over year, we're expecting the same number, 3.3 to 3.4%, maybe even a slight increase. So basically the same numbers is what we're expecting. For year over year, we're expecting almost the same numbers, but month over month, we're expecting a slight decrease. Excuse me. Now, PPI did see a big increase the last time it came out. This was the highest level we saw in basically 3 years. So we're going to see likely some somewhat similar numbers. We're going to see if it goes up or down. Hopefully, we see it being tame, and then that's going to be having a big effect on the Fed's policies. Tesla is also very sensitive to interest rates, so this data could affect Tesla as well. Now, because PPI did see a sharp increase, I think the month over month data might not be as bad, but the year over year data is what we're not as sure about. There's a 93.8% chance the Fed's going to give us a 25 basis point cut, and a 6.2% chance we get a 50 basis point cut. These numbers could be affected depending on the Fed's policies. We got some jobs numbers today as we got the revision, and this has once again kept these numbers essentially the same. What's happening is we saw non-farm payrolls being revised to basically negative 911,000. That's a big decrease compared to before, not the best of pieces of data, which is once again indicative of the fact that the data for the job sector is getting weaker. The labor market is weakening, it's tightening, and simultaneously we're also seeing inflationary numbers which aren't too bad. Hopefully they kind of like hold around the levels we're at and they start going down. This would once again incentivize the Fed to cut, and that's what we're hearing from the Trump administration. President Trump and his team are saying that Jerome Powell has no more excuses and he must cut rates now. They want to see a cut as soon as possible. So hopefully, we get that. I'm not just saying this because of what President Trump and his team want. I do think that this makes a lot of sense for the Fed looking at the jobs numbers. And they may get their wish, but the only question is to what extent. Will we get 25 basis points or 50 basis points? I think that the latest pieces of inflationary data are going to affect that alongside some jobs numbers, so that's going to be very important. The dollar and the 10-year Treasury yield have been going up a little bit as a result of the jobs numbers, but right now we are anticipating a cut by the Fed for next week. Neutral is the market's sentiment, and momentum is at neutral, not really changing too much. The put to call option ratio is at greed, and the VIX is at neutral. So right now, there's not really much going on as the market remains kind of stagnant. So if you're a bull on Tesla heading into tomorrow, you're going to be looking at essentially our very important PPI data. If Tesla holds above 350, we could be going for close to 355, and then we'll see if you reject or not to make a lower high. You want to take out this high over here at 355 to 358 to be more bullish. If you're bearish, you want to see us basically get a rejection, and you want to see Tesla fail at 344. If 344 fails us, I think we dump to fill the gap all the way down to 338. So keep the levels in mind because we don't always know what's going to happen with our data, but because SPY and the QQQ are currently breaking out and approaching all-time highs right now, there's a good chance that that is anticipating some decent inflationary numbers, and Tesla might try to pop a little bit as we're holding above our EMAs. On the 4 hour, we're still making higher lows, so I still think that Tesla is going to most likely pop tomorrow. I think this is my prediction. We try to pop a little bit for the low 350s. but I can't guarantee we're going to take out this high. I'm not sure about that. It really depends on our PPI data. And if we don't take out the high and we just start to turn to make a lower high, then yes, we could turn back down to fill the gap. So it depends. Do we hold above 350 and then continue to push for 355 plus, or do we kind of push to 350 to 355, consolidate, then dump? Those are the two most likely possibilities. I do think we push a little bit upon open tomorrow. I think Tesla's going to be going for the low 350s, but then we might still turn back down, meaning that I can't guarantee if this move is going to last. The daily looks indecisive. We have a gap to fill, and Tesla's looking kind of flat compared to the market. SPY and the QQQ were up 0.2 to 0.3%. Tesla was only up 0.16% for the day, which tells us that Tesla is once again in a critical place. So could we push higher? Yes, we can, but then we're going to see if we get some kind of rejection or not. So be very, very patient, at least nonetheless. SPY, on the other hand, is looking more bullish. If you're a bear, first you want to see us fail at 650. If that fails us, we could be retesting the low of the day around 647.5. If you're a bull, you want to see us hold above 652. If that holds, we're looking for 654 to 655 as our potential targets. Looking at the current trend, we're making higher lows. So this is basically going to be favoring this new all-time high. I think we're going to be looking for new all-time highs near 654. And then we're going to see if we get some kind of rejection or not, since we do have a triple bearish divergence. I'm not going to worry about that yet. I do think we go for the all-time high, a little bit above that for new all-time highs for now. So my anticipation that SPY is going to likely see a little bit of upside, once again breaking all-time highs on the 4-hour. On top of this, on the daily time frame, right? Let me pull up the daily. Sorry about that. The daily, it's still looking bullish. We're still bullish on the daily. There's no sign of a rejection yet. So for now, we could be looking for new all-time highs. Also notice that SPY has been in this range for quite some time, between the 635 and 600 and the low 650s. So we still favor new all-time highs on SPY. We're looking quite strong. I think we're going to likely see new all-time highs. And then we'll see if we end up getting a rejection or not. But for now, we do favor upside for the PPI report. Now, the triple Q had a left shoulder, head and right shoulder, but notice that we're trying to invalidate it as we're getting a nice break to the upside. Now, despite the fact that we're pushing higher, let me just note that there is the possibility of a rising wedge. So it's possible that we're forming like a rising wedge-like structure. Although we could be going a bit higher, be a little bit careful as we try to push a little bit higher towards the all-time high. And we're going to see if we get some kind of rejection off this wedge or not. But here's the thing. It's all about the levels. If you want to be a bear, you need to see the QQQ essentially fill at not only 580, but essentially 577 to start dumping. If you're bullish, you want to break past 583. My guts tells me that 583 could be tested. We might get very close to that. Then we'll see if we continue to run, or if the QQQ kind of forms a top here and starts to turn back down. Those are both strong possibilities. So it depends on our data, but because SPY and the QQQ might push a little bit, I do think Tesla might try to go for 350 and go a little higher before potentially turning right back down. So be very, very careful with that. For Nvidia, we're looking a bit more bullish. We're going to be favoring an attempt to push back up to about 175. My guts tells me this is going to try to go a little bit higher, and then we're going to see if we get some kind of rejection or not. For now, there's upside potential. I think this might be trying to go higher, so that's a good sign, at least for a lot of tech stocks. As long as Nvidia does not lose 173, I'm looking for 175 plus, and that could also help the QQQ. On the other hand, the IWM is looking kind of weak. Unless we get back above 238, we could be looking for a pivot, and this might actually start to turn a bit lower since we got this big rejection, and we're technically below our key 20 EMA. Maybe a pop to 238, but then a potential rejection could be pending, so keep that in mind. ES is looking bullish, making higher lows so far. Now, if we end up losing 6,500, we could be dumping a lot more, but as long as we hold above that, we're looking for 6,550 as a potential target, and this could be going a little bit higher, at least for now. So as long as 6,500 does not break, we may consolidate and start pushing for 6,550 as the upside looks a bit more prominent. For NQ, we're looking a bit more bullish. We also have a nice bullish wedge forming. Now, if we end up losing essentially 23,750, we could turn back down. But my gut tells me that this might try to consolidate and start pushing for 24,000 as our target, as the upside potential remains. In terms of Bitcoin, we also have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. We're going to see if this breaks out higher or not. If not, this could be turning right back down. So I think that 12,500 looks like a reasonable target to be going a little bit higher. For Tesla, like I said before, this might be trying to push a little bit higher into the low 350s, and we'll see if we get some kind of rejection or not. So be very, very mindful of that. We might be pushing to the low 350s and we may consolidate for some time like this. But be careful in case we get a rejection because there is still that gap to fill at 338. Look for a small push tomorrow morning and then we'll see what happens after that. Like I said before, Nvidia and lots of chip stocks are looking bullish now, so we could be looking for 175 and 178, and that could really help the QQQ and the S&P 500 push a little bit more. For Apple, they unveiled their very awesome iPhone 17 Pro Max, which is awesome news. However, keep in mind that typically after product unveilings, we see a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of reaction by Apple. So we could see a bounce off this 50 EMA right here, but then we're going to be at risk of dipping to like the low 230s. Netflix is looking a bit more bullish. As long as we don't end up losing 1242, we could dip a bit, then start pushing for 1270 for another high. For Microsoft, sorry, not Microsoft, MicroStrategy, we have resistance at 336 and support down here around 320. Look for a test of 331. We'll see if we go a little higher before turning back down as we have some consolidation pending. Celsius is consolidating here, so we could be looking for an attempt for 58, and we'll see if we reject or not. Supermicro is looking a bit more bullish. As long as we don't lose 42, we're going to be favoring 44 as our potential target. And then this chops around the 45 area, so I anticipate some upside near 45. Palantir looks a bit more bullish here. We are trying to hold this support. As long as we don't lose 160, we're going to be favoring consolidation in 166 as our potential target. Rivian is making lower highs here. We need to see this hold 13.9 for it to push higher. If we lose 13.5, we're turning back down, but I'm favoring the low 14s, so we'll see what kind of reaction we get. SoFi is making higher lows as long as you don't lose 25.5. Look for some consolidation and attempt to push to 26.5. AMD is looking a bit more bullish. We're favoring 160.72, then eventually 162 as our targets. Like I said before, the chip stocks are looking good. Even ARM is holding up, but we need to hold above 141. If we do, we're going to be favoring an attempt for 144. PayPal is making lower highs here. We could be dipping back down to 67.5, and we'll see if we bounce. Coinbase is looking for an attempt for basically 320. If we lose 315, we're turning back down, but I want to see us basically break past 350 or 315, excuse me. As long as we hold above that, we're looking for 325. Amazon might come down to like 236 before it starts breaking out to go a lot higher. So we do have potential to go higher for now as we're forming an accumulation. Might dip and bounce for the low 240s. Meta is on an uptrend. So long as we don't end up losing essentially 753, we're going to be favoring 770. Google's looking bullish. We could be favoring an attempt to get back up to like 244 plus. Microsoft is looking decent. We're range bound between 501 and basically 495, but I'm favoring a little bit more upside. And then for a few more tickers, we have DJT, which is going to be favoring the low 17s. The VIX is rejecting here. It's going to likely be dipping back down to like the low 14s, so like 14.25 or below could be coming. The 10-year Treasury yield is also trying to bounce here. We could be looking for basically the 4 area. If we lose 4 flat, we're going to be dipping, so we're kind of in the middle. The dollar is kind of pushing a bit as a result of the unemployment numbers. And then we also have the crude futures trying to go a little higher. So we'll just have to see what happens, at least for now. So that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. For now, the market has some upside potential, especially with PPI data coming out. I think that Tesla may also try to push a little bit more as well. We could be looking for the low 350s, but I can't promise this is going to continue to run hard because once again, the daily is showing some weakness and we have that big gap below, which makes me a little bit concerned. May see a temporary bounce, but then we're going to see if we turn down later on Tesla. So be very careful, guys. And with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Get ready for a big move before the market opens tomorrow with PPI data coming out. The data is likely going to be decent. That's what the market's anticipating. So hopefully the market tries to go a little bit higher, but then we'll see if we get some kind of rejection or not. So we'll see, though. Always be prepared for the bearish and bullish cases because you never know what's going to happen with our data, although the market does look like it has upside potential for now. So with that being said, I thank you again for listening. I'll be back tomorrow before market open to give you guys another update. Until then, I wish you all the best. Have a good day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world. And I'll be back very, very soon. And thank you for listening. Have a good one, and peace out.